Welcome back to the weekly Yep. Today, boys and girls, we are talking about how life feels like the world's biggest fucking pay-to-win game known to man. It feels like a gotcha game, and I'm a fucking free-to-play player full of a world full of whales, right? So, the reason why I want to talk about this is I was just thinking, I feel lost a lot of times because it feels like I've done everything society has told me to do to be successful, right? I'm not saying I'm not successful, but I'm not where I thought I would be when I was in high school, if that makes sense. For example, society tells you, go to school, stay in school, go to college, get a degree, and that's how you get a good paying job. And with that good paying job, you can then get a raise. From the raise, you're able to afford new things like a nice car, a place to live, and who knows, even fun items. Maybe you can invest, maybe you can do this, maybe you can do that, right, with your money. And with how today works, that is completely and utterly false. It feels like, it feels like the people who dropped out of school or didn't go to college, who gamble and or sell drugs, since they're cheating the system, and gambling isn't like cheating, but like it's a beautiful thing if you win. And you don't always win. And with that, I just feel like, where did this all go downhill? And I'm going to be honest, as much as some older generations, and I genuinely don't think generations dissing on each other is productive in any way, but I've heard this from people older than me that I work with, where they're like, your generation is lazy. Your generation doesn't have drive. Your generation wants too much free things. Your generation is the reason why I don't have faith in society, right? And to be honest, that's a lot of horse shit. And I feel like anybody with like a decent fucking understanding and the ability to have some nuance to their thinking will understand how fucking stupid that is. And it's like, you have a generation where, they got off the gold standard, and look at what that did. And, they stopped really taxing companies. Like, they tax rich people, but like they don't tax them correctly, and it's all a mess. And businesses used to celebrate the fact that they have good paying jobs, they have great benefits, they give back to the employees and the people who work for them. And nowadays, it's more like the person needs to beg for a job just to see if they can even fucking squeak in. We see it in schools where kids are using AI to grade homework, and kids are using AI to do the homework. So it's just AI doing the learning, basically. And it's the same thing applies there, where it's like there's been instances where people put in AI applications, and then it's AI that scans through all the applicants. And so like no one's getting properly hired or like given a chance. And if you don't meet these specific requirements, you're not in. And I'm not saying it's every job, and I'm not saying it's every person looking for a job, but there is a crazy job scarcity, and people are nervous because there isn't much to look forward to in the future if things stay the way they are. And you can see that with how housing is, right? And how the price of rent and wage have not been at a near equal level in decades. And it feels like these companies are taking advantage of everything, where, you know, why is it that businesses can buy homes and then rent them all out? That's like the most un-American thing I could ever fucking think of. A company buys the land and you can only rent that land. Like, it's capitalist as fuck. And I'm not saying capitalism is the worst thing or if it's the best thing. I feel like there's an in-between. Back to the point is, we're having companies owning everything and raising the prices, and like, you know, it's companies and the stock market and how everything fucking just intertwines so heavily, and then into politics and into everything. It's just so overwhelming as someone who's, you know, entering adult life. And I'm not saying, you know, previous generations had it easier, but I do feel that there is a challenge that previous generations don't fully recognize, that, you know, they didn't have to compete with the internet. They didn't have to compete with the fact that everyone can be replaceable in some way, some form. Not in like, maybe not in an AI way, but like, you know, take game development, for example. They fucking outsource. A lot of these AAA studios outsource so they don't have to pay employees. And so like, we're building a system in which whoever has the most money just wins, and it just feels as if companies have us in a box and we get to move only within inside this box that has been created for us. And I don't know. I don't mean for this to be a negative video. I'm not super negative about it. It's just like, I notice it, I want to point it out, and I don't know what we could do to make everything better, because a lot of it has to come down to regulating businesses. And some of that's happening, some of that isn't happening, and like, it's all just so overwhelming for someone who's brand new to the adult world. And yeah, I'm just curious what other people's thoughts are with it, because, you know, I don't come from money. I don't come from, you know, a city either. I'm in, like, as far as anyone knows, I'm in the middle of fucking nowhere. And it's crazy how much cities influence small areas, and how overwhelming or overstimulating the world has gotten from like even 7 years ago. It feels like shit is just ramping up and up and up, in the sense of like either tensions or like just everything. It just, life feels like it's going 1,000 miles an hour, but at the same time, it's like it's being held in place, and it's such a weird situation. But yeah, I don't know. I'm genuinely curious what people's thoughts on it are. So with that, if you like this video, leave a like. If you didn't like it, you know what? That's fair. Leave a comment, subscribe, stay hydrated. Deuces.